the most beautiful girl from campus, and I were married for 10 years. In all that time, she never once called me her husband. The day she was kidnapped, no one was willing to take her place. One by one, they all cut ties with her. I was the only one who stepped forward, taking her place in a bone-chilling water cell. But when she finally had the ransom money, she pointed to her first love. "I want to save him," she said. I didn't cry or cause a scene. I just asked her a question. If you had married someone else back then, would you have been happier? Her eyelashes fluttered. She finally looked down, took her first love by the hand, and turned to leave. "I'm sorry." I laughed. I had heard her say, "I'm sorry," countless times over the past decade. I should have known this was how it would end. I stood up, and at the last second, threw myself in front of the kidnapper's gun. A small, bloody smile touched my lips. "Congratulations. Now I'll never be between you two again." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I confessed my feelings to her. This time, I turned and ran, blocking her number and deleting her from every app one had. But then, her tear-streaked face appeared on the massive electronic billboard downtown. "Frank, I can't be happy without you. I can't. Diana will be here soon. So make yourself presentable. Change out those sweatpants." My father's voice scolded from the doorway. I pressed the spot where the bullet had gone through my chest. There was no wound. I had been reborn. This was the day Diana Ashford came to the Winston estate to choose her husband for the family alliance. Normally, I would have jumped up to get ready, to make the best possible impression on Diana when she arrived. After all, everyone knew I'd been in love with her all through college. Everyone except her, that's why in my past life, when she chose me out of all the eligible Winston men, I thought I was dreaming. But now I just ran a hand through my messy hair and yawned. "I know, Dad. You can go ahead. All right, just make sure you look sharp. Diana doesn't like sloppy men." I know. Satisfied, my father left my room. He was sure I would do anything to look my best for Diana. But he was wrong. My previous marriage proved that some things, some people, were just never meant to be mine. The union of the Winston and Ashford families brought immense profits to both sides. But Diana never once gave me a genuine smile. She once looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and asked a question. "Am I really going to be stuck with you for the rest of my life?" I'd asked her once too. "If I had been the one you met first, do you think you could have loved me the way you loved him?" I never got an answer. But her, "I'm sorry," told me everything I needed to know. If you can't force happiness, then it's better to just let go. Besides, there was a promising business opportunity in Chicago that I knew would be worth a fortune in a decade. Now was the perfect time to secure it. I packed a bag and unlocked my phone. The wallpaper, a picture of Diana, smiling, stung my eyes. I'd forgotten how bright and full of life her smile was before she married me. Remembering the way she used to look at me with tears in her eyes, I opened my contacts and found Leo Hayes' name. I sent him a message on iMessage, 3203 Riverview Drive. "Come tell her how you feel." A moment later, a reply from Leo came back. It was just a single question mark. "Are you insane?" "I'm not kidding. Today's the day she chooses her husband from the Winston family. You know you're the only one she's ever wanted." The Hayes family was a minor branch of the Winstons, so if Diana chose him, it would still technically count as a union between the families. The problem was the Hayes family was on the verge of bankruptcy. The alliance wouldn't benefit the Ashfords at all, which is why my father and I had made sure he wasn't on the list of candidates. I admit, I was being selfish. I knew that if Leo showed up, I wouldn't stand a chance. But then I remembered my wife, looking at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm yours for life now. Are you happy?" I wasn't. This time, I would let them have their happiness. I dressed down and blended in with the guests, watching Diana from across the room. She was just as cool and distant as I remembered, her eyes scanning the room as if no man there was worthy of her attention. After she rejected my last cousin, she glanced impatiently toward the entrance. She turned to my father. "Mr. Winston, is this really everyone?" My father chuckled. "There is one more who hasn't arrived. Don't worry, Diana." "I'm not worried," she said. She sat perfectly still, her gaze fixed on the doorway. In my first life, she had stared at that same door, waiting for the man she loved to walk through it. When he never came, she finally raised a hand and pointed at me, her voice devoid of all emotion. "Then I choose him." With that one, simple, indifferent sentence, she sealed my fate, and I spent the next decade going through hell for her. I sent another message to Leo. "Are you coming or not?" The next second, the large doors swung open. He and Diana locked eyes. It was as if they were always meant to find each other in this moment. A small smile touched my lips. I pulled the brim of my cap down and walked away. "Diana, without me in your way, you can finally be happy." I thought to myself, congratulations. Thank you, but I have no intention of marrying you. When Diana said this, every guest in the room was stunned into silence. Everyone knew Leo Hayes was her first love, but I was already long gone, completely unaware of what was happening. Leo thought he must have misheard her. Diana, you've rejected every single Winston. Besides me, who else is there? Diana turned to my father. Mr. Winston, isn't Frank here? My father was taken aback. Diana had always been indifferent to me, always calling me by my full name. This was the first time she'd ever just said Frank. That boy, he had to step out for a moment. Diana froze. What could possibly be more important than our engagement? My father wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. It's all right, Mr. Winston. Diana sat down again, her posture perfect. I'll wait for him. My father forced a smile. Diana, there are so many fine men in the Winston family. Why are you so set on him? He's the only one I want. Diana smiled slightly. As soon as he returns, I will marry him, Mr. Winston. My father wiped his forehead again. Diana, I don't think you should wait. Why not? Diana blinked. Doesn't he love me more than anyone? Well, my father had thought so too at first. That was until I showed up with my bags packed to say goodbye. He wasn't happy about my sudden departure, but ever since my mother passed, he'd always spoiled me. After I explained my business plans and told him I was done with love, he finally nodded and let me go. For a moment, my father didn't know what to say, but Leo couldn't stay silent any longer. Diana, he doesn't love you. He's been lying to you this whole time. Look, he held out his phone, showing her our iMessage history. Seeing the messages, Diana shot to her feet and snatched the phone, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her voice trembled as she spoke. He told you to come here? Leo nodded. He was never that into you. It was all an act. He left in such a hurry. He's probably already found someone else. That's impossible. Diana looked up at Leo, and the raw disbelief in her eyes made him falter. Frank wouldn't do this to me. Mr. Winston, Diana turned back to my father. Please stop this. If Frank comes out right now, I'll go with him to the courthouse and marry him today. I swear it on the Ashford family name. Diana, it's not that I'm trying to keep you apart. It's just, my father hesitated. He said he never wants to see you again. The veins on the back of Diana's hand stood out as she clenched her fist. She pulled out her own phone and opened her contacts, refusing to believe it. How could he not want to see me? He loves me more than. Her words died in her throat when the message she sent failed to deliver. She swayed on her feet, nearly falling. Staring in disbelief at the red, not delivered notification, she whispered, her breath catching in her throat. He blocked me. I heard today was the engagement party for the Ashford heiress and one of the Winston boys. Not a Winston, it's a Hayes. You know, Diana's first love. Did you forget? Oh, right. It was that Winston kid who was always chasing her. If I were her, I would have been so sick of him. I stood on the curb with my suitcase, wearing sunglasses. Hearing the passers-by, I couldn't help but give a bitter laugh. That Winston kid won't be chasing anyone anymore. In this life, I was going to live for myself. Did you hear? Diana, Ashford rented out the big screen for today. Look, up there on the tallest building. I heard that costs $100,000 for 10 seconds. I pinched the bridge of my nose, a headache starting to form. Even though I was over her, the thought of seeing her in Leo's public declaration of love made my stomach turn. I was about to turn away when a pair of tear-filled eyes on the screen caught my attention. Frank, I can't be happy without you. I thought I was seeing things, so I lowered my sunglasses. The woman who had cried because she had to marry me was now crying harder than I had ever seen before. Frank, I came here today for you. If you come back, I'll marry you right now. I swear it. I must be losing my mind. Diana Ashford wanting to marry me. My brain must still be scrambled for being reborn. Frank, I know you can hear me. You don't have to answer. I'll find you. People in the crowd started whispering. Did I hear that right? Is she confessing her love to that lapdog? They actually looked good together, but she was never into him. It was kind of pathetic how he was always following her around. Well, I guess if you're persistent enough, you get the girl. Looks like the Winston kid finally won. The chatter all around forced me to accept that what I was seeing was real. I slapped my cheeks to make sure I was awake, confirming again and again that the woman on the screen was, in fact, Diana. But how could this be possible? Had she actually fallen in love with me? The moment the thought entered my head, I wanted to slap myself again. I was going crazy. Hadn't I suffered enough in the last life? It seemed Diana was even more pragmatic than I'd thought. She was willing to endure a loveless marriage if it meant securing the best deal for her family. The thought sent a chill through me. My cab arrived. I got in and left that place behind. The moment I stepped out of the cab, someone pointed at me. That's him. Get him. I froze. As a dozen people started running toward me, I realized they were after me. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my suitcase and ran. I managed to duck into a convenience store. The cashier stared at me for a second, then his eyes went wide, and he pointed. Frank Winston. Oh my God, you just walked right in. I bolted out the door again, running blindly. Hiding in an alley, I finally had a chance to check my phone. The moment I opened Twitter, the top trending topic made my eyes sting. Diana Ashford was offering a $10 million reward for any information on my whereabouts. I was speechless. What had gotten into her? When we were married, her biggest regret was being my wife. Now that I was giving her the freedom she always wanted, why was she chasing me? I pulled my collar up, adjusted my sunglasses to hide my face, and walked quickly toward the airport. Frank, that familiar voice sent a chill down my spine. I knew that voice anywhere. The voice that had said my name countless times in our past life. Frank, how long are you going to keep running from me? The clicking of her heels grew closer. Just as she reached for me, I flagged down a cab and jumped inside. Drive, as fast as you can. I yelled at the driver. The taxi peeled out into traffic. I looked back and saw no one following us. I had just started to relax when the driver slammed on the brakes, sending me lurching into the front seat. Sir, someone's blocking the road. I looked up and saw a supercar had executed a perfect spin to block our path. That license plate, it was Diana's. Mister, you need to get out now? I'm not finishing this trip. The driver, terrified by the custom plate, was practically pushing me out the door. I didn't waste any time. I got out and sprinted toward a narrow residential street. A supercar couldn't follow me in there. Frank, stop. Sure enough, Diana got out of her car and ran after me. She took the bait. I doubled back, yanked open the driver's side door of her car, and slid behind the wheel. Just borrowing this. I'll leave it for you at the airport. With that, I floored it and sped away. I thought I had finally gotten away from her, but then a deafening roar sounded right next to me, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. I looked over and saw Diana on a motorcycle, keeping pace with me. I couldn't believe how reckless she was being, trying to race a supercar on a bike. Did she have a death wish? She wore a helmet and gestured for me to pull over. She wanted me to stop. Not a chance. In this life, I was determined to have nothing to do with her. To make her give up, I slammed the accelerator to the floor, leaving her far behind. Trying to catch up at this speed would be suicide. But a moment later, a black shadow shot past me. I was stunned. The motorcycle overtook me, then spun around to a stop directly in my path. I was about to crash right into her. I slammed on the brakes, my head hitting the deploying airbag with a thud. The driver's door was pulled open, and she slid into the seat, pushing me over. I knew you wouldn't be able to hit me. I slumped back against the passenger seat, completely drained. What in the world are you trying to do? She turned to look at me, a playful smirk on her lips. You keep running from me. You're not afraid you'll fall for me all over again, are you? Her words made my entire body go rigid. Could it be that had she been reborn too? Don't you get tired of this? I said, my patience worn thin. I was throwing the same words back at her that she had said to me 1,000 times in our past life. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of sadness crossed her eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it came. Frank, just admit it. You're afraid those old feelings will come back, and I'll have you wrapped around my finger again. That's ridiculous. Then prove it. Let me come with you to Chicago. I hesitated. She smiled at me, and for a second, I was lost. I never knew she could smile at me like that. You're going for business anyway. What's the problem? Afraid you won't be able to resist me if I'm there? Her reverse psychology always worked on me. Annoyed, I grabbed the car's lighter and lit a cigarette right in front of her. She paused, surprised. But unlike in our past life, she didn't look at me with disgust. I took a long drag, the smoke filling lungs that had been clean for a decade because of her. I blew out a ring of smoke. Fina, but stay out of my way. She didn't seem to mind the smoke. Instead, she leaned in closer. You're the one who needs to keep up. I just scoffed. Diana knew Chicago better than I did. In our past life, it was where Leo had worked. I had once suggested we take a trip to Chicago, even creating a massive, detailed itinerary for us. All I got in return was a cold dismissal. Does that sound fun to you? I don't have time for games. This time in Chicago, however, she was full of energy. At night, she pulled me to the floor-to-ceiling window of her hotel suite, pointing out at the city lights over Lake Michigan. The view is best at this time of night. Look, I was unimpressed. It's fine. The next day, she dragged me to Navy Pier, insisting we do everything from the Ferris wheel to the games, looking over and over at the pictures we took while holding a cone of cotton candy. Why aren't you smiling? It's ruining the pictures. I yawned. You're the one who dragged me here. I'm not really in the mood. She paused for a moment, but then smiled anyway. The day after that, she took me to the observation deck of the Willis Tower, where we stood at the highest point in the city, looking down. You always said you loved high places. It's all right. She looked at me, a confused expression on her face. I remember you saying you always wanted to come here. Did I? I ruffled my wind-blown hair, not caring what I looked like. I don't remember. It wasn't until we were standing in front of the old cathedral that it finally clicked. The entire trip, every place she had taken me, it was all from that detailed itinerary I had made for her in our past life. But a trip is only as good as the company you keep. I never cared about the sights. I was already over her. So even the places I had once dreamed of visiting felt empty. She lit a candle and said a silent prayer. Then she turned to me. Frank, being with me, are you happy? No, you're not supposed to lie in church. She tilted her head, looking at me. What about just this trip? Have you been happy? No. She pressed her lips together. Her smile seemed strained. But you were the one who always wanted me to come here with you. Yes, I said, but it's too late for that now. As the scent of incense filled the air, her voice dropped to a whisper. Okay, I understand. She paused for a moment before continuing. But I'm not giving up. She looked me straight in the eye. And in a church, I would never lie. I looked down, but her bright, clear eyes still seemed to fill my vision. It took me back for a second. It was like the first day I ever saw her, when one look from those eyes captured my heart and sealed my fate. But that was all in the past. That was all over now. Do what you want. But I'm not getting back together with you. When you've had enough, you can leave. I turned and walked away. Diana left sooner than I expected. When I woke up the next morning, she was gone. My calls went straight to voicemail. Even though I was done with her, I still felt a basic human responsibility, so I made a few calls to try and find her. Staring at the unread messages, a knot of worry began to form in my stomach. A few days later, I had finished my business in Chicago, and there was still no word from her. Had something actually happened to her? I couldn't help but frown. It wasn't until I got a call from back home that I learned she had returned. I finally let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. As long as she was safe. But when I landed and was driving home, I saw two familiar figures in a park that made me stop in my tracks. I would recognize Diana and Leo anywhere. The wind blew a strand of Diana's hair, and Leo gently tucked it behind her ear. I heard his soft voice carry on the breeze. If he doesn't want you, I do. A sharp pain, like a needle, pierced my heart. I had planned to cut Diana out of my life, but I never hated her. In fact, when she disappeared, I had been genuinely worried. If she had just given up and left me alone, I would have been fine with it. But to disappear without a word, run back to Leo, and then act like she was deeply in love with me, it was something I couldn't stomach. It reminded me too much of my failed first life. Forget it. It was better to have no contact at all. She was a curse I needed to break. I left without disturbing them. Then I went through my phone and scrubbed every last trace of her from my life. From that moment on, my past was dead. The deal in Chicago was finalized, a guaranteed success. With that settled, I started planning a trip for myself. I had only ever wanted to go to Chicago because Diana loved it. The places I wanted to see were somewhere else entirely. Since I was traveling alone now, I could finally go wherever I wanted. But on the very day I was set to leave, Diana knocked on my door. Will you ever give up? I asked, my patience gone. Diana just smiled, her hands behind her back as she leaned toward me playfully. Did you forget? It's my birthday today. I rubbed my temples. Then go celebrate with Leo. What do you want from me? But you're my husband. I got goosebumps. No, I'm not. And we have nothing to do with each other anymore. So leave me alone. I turned to leave with my suitcase, but she grabbed my arm. Frank, haven't you had enough? I spun around and shook her hand off. How many times do I have to tell you? We are done. We have nothing to do with each other. You spent our whole marriage wanting freedom. Now I've given it to you. So why won't you leave me alone? Isn't Leo giving you what you want? My shouting brought my father out of his study. Seeing the tears welling in Diana's eyes, he immediately threw a punch at me. You brat. How dare you speak to Diana like that? The Winstons and the Ashfords had been allies for generations, and my father had always treated Diana like his own daughter. I dodged his fists while trying to explain. I didn't do anything. She's the one who won't let me leave. Mr. Winston, please stop. Diana stepped between us, stopping my father's arm. She turned to look at me. Frank, this is the last time I'll bother you. Just let me spend my birthday with you. Just this once. After midnight, I promise I'll never bother you again. I rubbed my forehead. You promise? Yes. She raised her right hand. I swear on the Ashford family name. I thought about it for a moment. Fine. But you have to keep your word. After today, you leave me alone. I will. Her eyes lit up, and she threw her arms around mine. So, shall we go? I felt a strange, tingling sensation. I wasn't used to a girl holding onto my arm so affectionately, especially not Diana. Despite my frustrations with her, I knew this was the last time we would ever spend together. And since it was her birthday, I tried not to be too harsh. I even found myself pointing to a little stall selling hand-woven red-string bracelets. Do you like it? I can get it for you. I never expected her to say yes. A cheap trinket like that was beneath her. I was only making a half-hearted offer. I'd love that. When she smiled and nodded, I thought I must have heard her wrong. You actually like this kind of thing? I like anything you give me. For a second, I wondered if this bright-eyed person in front of me was even the same woman. I bought the bracelet and tied it around her wrist. She held it up for me to see, pointing to the single red bead woven into the string. Do you know what this means? No, I said dismissively. You're so dense. She tapped me on the forehead with her finger. It's a symbol of deep, unforgettable love. A love that's bone deep. Do you get it? I stared at her for a moment. I couldn't stand how sentimental she was being. Save the sweet talk for Leo. I couldn't bear the thought of her saying the same things to him. She just smiled, unbothered. Watching her treasure that cheap little bracelet, I felt a pang of guilt. Let's go shopping. My treat. Is this my birthday present? She asked, blinking her eyes. Sure. Besides, I haven't eaten dinner yet. She laughed softly and took my arm again. You don't have to take me anywhere. I've already prepared everything. When she opened the door to her hotel room, I saw a huge birthday cake and piles of gifts filling the entire space. I was stunned. Are these all presents for you? No, they're for you. I pointed at myself. For me. But it's your birthday. Diana's eyes crinkled as she smiled. I know. I'm making up for all the birthdays I missed. Go on, take a look. The gifts were arranged in neat piles. Each pile was labeled with an age, starting from my first birthday, my second, my third, all the way up to my 32nd. 32. In my past life, we married when I was 22. 10 years later, at 32, I died for her. I had celebrated a decade of her birthdays. She had never once remembered mine. Was she making up for all the birthdays from her past life? It's your birthday, but you're the one giving gifts. I asked, looking at her. Are you moved? She asked, tilting her head. I am. My voice was flat. Anyone would be. It has nothing to do with you. I was making it clear that this wouldn't change my mind. I know. She looked down. I wasn't expecting it to. Hearing the sadness in her voice, I couldn't bring myself to ruin her birthday completely. So what do you want? As a gift? Well, she seemed to have been waiting for me to ask. Take me back to the cathedral. After we lit another candle at the cathedral, she took out a ring. It looked exactly like the wedding band I had given her in our past life. Frank, I have one last wish. Will you put on for me? I frowned. Are you asking me to propose to you? She laughed. Would you if I asked? We were in a church. I couldn't lie. I shook my head. No. She was still smiling, but she let out a soft sigh. I knew you'd say that. Don't worry. It doesn't mean anything. I just want you to be the one to put it on me. I swear. After midnight, I promise I'll be gone for good. With a sigh, I took the ring and slid it onto her finger. She admired the ring for a moment, then leaned her head against my shoulder. I tensed up, but since this was our last moment together, I didn't pull away. Frank, I love you. I said coolly. You're not supposed to lie in a church. That's why I brought you here to tell you. She was completely insane. I frowned. I didn't love you at first, it's true, but after 10 years, even a heart of stone would have warmed up. Don't, I said, cutting her off. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to think about our past life. She had always been so good at playing with my emotions. I'm not lying, Frank. She rested her head on my shoulder, looking out at the city lights below. I know you hate me, and I'm not asking you to forgive me. My only birthday wish is for you to be happy for the rest of your life. You're acting so strange today. I glanced down and saw a drop of blood land on the back of my hand. Diana. I caught her as she slumped against me. There was blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. I'm taking you to the hospital. As I tried to lift her, she put a weak hand on my chest to stop me. Don't. It's too late. It's midnight. The cathedral bells began to chime. My breath hitched. Midnight? What about midnight? My time is up. In our first life, I was supposed to die. I begged for this time with you. What are you talking about? Frank. A small, bloody smile touched her lips as she raised her hand, the one with the ring. Thank you for putting this ring on my finger. I really do love. I love you so much. Her hand went limp in mine, the warm, slick blood pooling between our palms. The city lights reflected in her now empty eyes. I wish we could have stayed in this moment forever. The woman in my arms was gone. My hand went numb. Suddenly, I felt a hollow space open up inside my chest. I knew from a very early age that I was just a character in a story. By a strange twist of fate, I learned how my story was supposed to end. I was meant to be shot through the heart by my kidnappers. The tragedy was, by that point, I had already fallen in love with Frank. I wanted to finally accept his love, to have his children, to grow old with him. But fate had played a cruel joke on me. Knowing I only had a few years left, I looked at the man sleeping beside me. I gently traced the sharp line of his jaw, and a tear rolled down my cheek. When I died, he would be 32 years old. He still had his whole life ahead of him. So, it was better if he hated me. Let him remember me as the cruel wife who only ever loved her first love. That way, when I was gone, he could move on quickly. I threw all the birthday presents I had bought for him into the fireplace, along with the roses he had given me. Then, when he came home and saw the ashes, I sneered at him. 1,000 roses can't create love. Stop wasting your time. The day I was kidnapped, I never imagined he would be willing to die for me. That's why, when I had to choose, I chose Leo without a second thought. I knew how the story was supposed to go. The kidnappers were only after me. The ransom was just a ploy to get my money before they killed me. The bullet was supposed to hit me as I walked away with Leo. I had no regrets. If he saw me choose another man, he would finally be able to let me go. But I never expected him to break from the script and step in front of that gun. I made a deal to turn back time, even though he had taken my place, and I could have lived a long life. I didn't want it. I had to save him, even if it meant I would only live until my next birthday. But I never expected that he would be reborn, too. In a way, it was for the best. It meant I had a few more months with him. He spent so long chasing me in our first life. It was my turn to chase him in this one. It didn't matter if I failed. I was going to die anyway. All that mattered was having one more beautiful moment with him. And most importantly, to finally tell him the words I could never say in our first life. You're not supposed to lie in a church. My husband, I love you. In this life, you have to live a long, long time.